SimCity 4 holds a very special place in my heart. It's one of my first games on the computer, and it's a pretty good start if you ask me. I'm sure most people who had computers who were around sometime in the 2000s to 2010s have some fond memory of booting up a Maxis game and being wondered by building something and seeing it come alive. Whether it be a city builder, or The Sims, Spore, Marble Drop for Windows 95. Now, all SimCity games aren't made equal. I haven't really played all the older games, except the absolute original on my old Wii. It's alright. It's more of a spreadsheet with numbers that correlate to what you're doing. It does have sprites that give some illusion of depth, but you can clearly tell it's just a grid of sprites. The game is still alright though, but kind of mechanically strange. For example, rails are way more effective than roads, so instead of making roads, you link every other tile with rails. It's still a fun enough game, but I don't really think it holds much value nowadays for many people. And it was pretty much immediately followed up with SimCity 2000. It added some real depth. Buildings can actually be behind other buildings with a real isometric viewpoint, and there's variation in height with terrain. It's simple, with like 8 terrain tiles, but it works well enough, and makes disasters much better to look at. Because of the isometric view, there's also a layer for subways and water pipes. Now, when they were planning the next game, stockholders wanted them to make the next game completely 3D, which at the time was just completely impossible. Since this was 1996, Quake had just came out as the first 3D game that was actually worth playing. It was a technical marvel. 3D graphics cards were only in their infancy. For a game that could be infinitely expanding where the player could build as many structures as they pleased, it was impossible. And everyone working on the game knew that. But they were forced to slog onward for a year on a game that they knew wouldn't be good. When the game was unveiled at E3 1997, pretty much everyone thought it would suck. But when EA bought Maxis, the 3D version of the game was completely scrapped, and they made a revision based on the 2D isometric graphics from the second game. They focused on improving the engine with better terrain, zooming, and more variety in almost everything. And EA was actually willing to let Maxis wait until February of 1999, missing their Christmas deadline. Not something you would necessarily see from EA today. Which leads us to SimCity 4. It's not isometric, it's trimetric, which makes it look different from the other games, giving it a neat style. And it helps with seeing buildings behind buildings, until you get to building skyscrapers and it doesn't matter anymore. But I've not seen many other games pull off this trimetric style, and I think it looks really cool. Now for development, it seemed like it went smooth enough. I found the art director's blog, and it has some pretty interesting stuff on it. He talks about developing a little simulator for the terrain, simulating erosion and getting clouds to appear on the sides of mountains, and it looks pretty much exactly like the terrain in the game today looks like. Apparently, making the roads work with the terrain was one of the hardest things to do, and took up 6 months of development. These screenshots of the test build they're using are really cool to look at. The rendering engine for the game is actually pretty interesting. The game is actually completely rendered in 3D, and the camera can basically be taken anywhere you want, using mods. The top of roofs are made using 2D sprites, while the sides and terrain are 3D. The reason you can't move the camera like this in vanilla is because of performance reasons. Remember, this game had to run in 2003. On release, the game was praised for its use of hybrid 3D graphics, being one of the first to use them, unless you count SimCity 64, but that was only in Japan on the disk drive add-on, so like no one played it. Anyways, I think the graphics hold up really well, especially when you zoom out to the region menu, and you can see all the cities you've built up. Also, yeah, the region menu exists. Instead of each city existing in a void, they all exist on a big region in a void, which is neat. You can connect cities to each other, make up huge spanning highways and trains that connect the world, and make small cities viable. It's really up to you what to do with it. Now I'll admit, I'm kind of obviously a bit biased towards the game. It was my childhood city builder, and I think I'd played a little bit of SimCity Snap beforehand, but it never really grabbed me. But being able to zone and build wherever I wanted to and see the city grow and expand was really awesome to me, even though I was terrible at it at the time. And don't even get me started on the music, man. The music. All of the songs in this game are so ambient, and they fit so perfectly with the cities, with long psychedelic tracks that make you get lost in the game, and playing until you look at the clock and suddenly it's 3 AM. And when you sit there looking at the region menu, looking at the progress you've made, the soundtrack makes it feel like you didn't just waste 5 hours clicking and dragging your mouse. The music in this game really makes it feel like another place to get lost in. It's probably just nostalgia talking, but it really sticks with me and has this combination of computery synth instruments with drums and orchestra that makes it feel really unique. The game has its flaws, but in my opinion, they're few and far between. One common complaint is with traffic management, but if you look at real life, traffic is everywhere. I don't know, maybe that's just a cope. Advisors can also kind of get annoying, but I see them as more of an indicator of what's happening in the city, rather than something to follow 100%. I know it's not for everyone, but I'll probably always be going back to SimCity 4. It's just addicting. But I think that's all I got for this video. If you liked it, or want me to do something else, or if you hated it, tell me in the comments. Peace.